Where's the money, Lebowski? You want that money, Lebowski? Bunny says you're good for it. Here's the fucking money, shithead!
It's down there somewhere. Let me take another look.
First, you can't learn all these things in the public school system, and that includes college. You have to learn on your own outside of the system. You have to do your self-education, your self-evaluation, which means you're going to be lonely because nobody likes a smart Negro. I mean, if you're trying to be intelligent, talk about your history and be more aware, you're going to turn a lot of black people off. The loneliness will drive you back into just getting a hair relaxer, you know. The loneliness of being intelligent.
To me, it's like everybody's scared of the government, you know what I'm saying? Because they killed Tupac and they killed Biggie Smalls. I don't care what y'all say. That's my seeing. Who cares? I'm just letting y'all know, y'all could be afraid of the government all y'all want to. Y'all been afraid of the government for 29 years. Y'all ain't telling me I was Jesus, so it's okay. I love you. Don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm just letting y'all know all that afraid of the government stuff, you know what I'm saying? That's dead in my life, man, because I got special things to put on people. You know what I'm saying? You know, but don't get me wrong, I love y'all, you know what I'm saying? If you're gonna be real, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Don't play no games. This ain't no games no more. All right? If you're gonna be real, keep it real.
But you have to realize that, yes, the involvement of violence in black folks comes from that long history that the president was talking about, that we have to remember that we learned from some of the best. They had some white boys came over here that did the first beheadings in Point Coupee, Louisiana, where I'm from. Slave insurrection, that was the way you dealt with it. Tuskegee syphilis incident. We're going to see how black men die if they have syphilis, but we pretend we treat them with penicillin, and we're just going to watch the pathology of how they die. Now, that wasn't back 200 years ago. That was 1930 to 1974. We were talking about giving these wonderful blankets to Native Americans infected with smallpox as they walked on that trail of tears just to see how they die and to eliminate their population so we can take all of that land. So the violence that is in America has come from a very learned position that was brought here by some Caucasian folks.
At this point, I think that it is important to make one thing very clear. I have advocated, and I still advocate, revolutionary changes in the structure and in the principles that govern the United States. I advocate self-determination for my people and for all oppressed peoples inside the United States. I advocate an end to capitalist exploitation, the abolition of racist policies, the eradication of sexism, and the elimination of political repression. If that is a crime, then I am totally guilty.
I said, okay, let me break this down for you then. Let's say Lil Ricky, 2 houses down, comes and steals your Nerf gun. Is that his Nerf gun? He was like, no, it's my Nerf gun. He stole that from me. I was like, word. Well, it's his now, so deal with it. Ricky grows up, has a kid, and gives that Nerf gun to that kid. Now, is it that kid's Nerf gun? He said, no, it's still my Nerf gun. He took it from me. I said, he didn't take it from you. His dad did. He's only known that Nerf gun was his whole life. How could you take that back from him? He's like, nah, it's mine. I want it back. I said, okay, fine. Let's play this out a little bit longer. So Lil Ricky's kid has a kid when he gets older, and he gives him that Nerf gun. Is it still your Nerf gun? He was like, yeah, it's always been my Nerf gun. Just because he passed it along to a different guy doesn't mean that it's not mine. I said, well, then perfect. This isn't our land.
I am called back up. For one motherfucker? Y'all scary as hell. 39. Right, yeah. Get the fuck back.
A revolutionary is a man or a woman who is a lot of things. But basically, the revolutionary wants to change the nature of society in a way to promote a world where the needs and interests of the people are responded to. A revolutionary realizes, however, that in order to create a world where human beings can live and love and be healthy and create, you have to completely revolutionize the entire fabric of society. You have to overturn the economic structure where you have a few individuals who are in possession of the vast majority of the wealth in this country that's been produced by the majority of the people, and you have to destroy this political apparatus.
The supposed children were actually undercover cops, and it's scandalous as well because among the 24 people arrested is a nurse, a firefighter, and a police sergeant. Eyewitness News reporter Sandra Bookman with what happened and reaction.
We're here to announce the arrest of 24 alleged child predators.
The New Jersey Attorney General outlining the details of Operation Open House, a multi-agency sting that netted 24 suspected child predators, men who allegedly used social media to lure underage girls and boys for sex.
Instead, as alleged in our complaints, they ended up preying upon undercover officers posing as children. And when they showed up at our undercover house seeking to meet their intended victims for sex, they were arrested.
Among those now charged, a registered sex offender, a nurse, college students, a firefighter, and a Howell Township police sergeant.
Among the 24 arrested, authorities say a firefighter, a nurse, and a Howell Township, Monmouth County police sergeant, Richard Conti. That's him third from the left.
Conti claimed during his chats that he was a 19-year-old male. Believing that he was chatting with a 15-year-old girl, he allegedly said that he had had sex with underage girls and wanted to meet the girl to, quote, get naked, close quote. He had condoms in his pocket when he was arrested.
The sergeant has turned in his weapon to the police.
Next!
Qualifications.
Rape, murder, arson, and rape.
You said rape twice.
I like rape.
Charming. Sign right here.
Dashcam footage has emerged showing a police lieutenant in the US telling a woman during a traffic stop that police only kill black people.
Use your phone. It's in your lap right there.
I just don't want to put my hands down. I'm really sorry.
You're just really wrong.
No. I've just seen way too many videos of cops.
But you're not black. Remember, we only kill black people. Yeah, we only kill black people, right? All the videos you've seen, have you seen white people get killed?
Evening, the death of police commander associated with decades of abuse, John Burge, died today in Florida where he had been living.
These tools of torture that investigators and prosecutors said Burge and his underlings used to extract confessions, mostly at the expense of young African-American men.
More than 100 men claim from the 1970s to the 1990s, Burge and officers under his supervision tortured them into confessing to crimes they did not commit.
Gotta wear the dress. The black actor got to somehow wear the dress.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
or play some kind of feminine role,
now,
feminine character.
Exactly. Now, give me an example.
Tyler Perry.
And this ain't got nothing to do with no gay community, because I'm gonna tell you something. The white gay community is in on it too, because hell, that's all doggone Hollywood is. It's white gay community. But whenever they want to see, it's interesting how they do things. Whenever they want to push the envelope, they'll get a black person to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So soon as Dennis Rodman put on the dress, he got a TV show.
Right.
Back in the 90s. And soon as we knew about a RuPaul, next thing you know, this brother got his TV show.
Look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? You know what I'm talking about? Okay.
The good black woman has self-respect. She don't have to go out naked just to get the attention of a man. I have sisters all over the country, and they come up to me after the lectures, and they'll be talking to me, and they'll say, well, you know, all he think about is sex. All he think about is my body. I say, why don't you show him something else? And then here's the really good one. They'll come up and they'll have on a weave. They have on false eyelashes, another whole face, false fingernails, and all of that. And then they'll say, but I'm looking for a real man.
That's the reason why I'm going to be in January. I want to go to Africa to learn more about the cultures, to avoid misunderstandings.
But you,
and to learn more about the cultures and the person itself.
But you understand that race and colour is much more than skin deep. It's heritage and
absolutely.
pedigree and tradition and history and struggle. It's all of those things that you can't hope to get anywhere near with 3 tanning injections.
No, but also all these steps, also having black curly hairs and going to change also my nose to really African version, also more wider here,
You're
and
having further surgery.
and also have and also have butt implants.
Let us think of women who are usually ignored, or who are feared, or who are shunned by the corporate media. Women like those nameless billions who, according to the UN Conference of Women in Copenhagen, 1980, will form between 2/3 and 3/4 of the work of the world and produce 45% of the world's food. They labor against great odds and keep body and soul together for billions of children. They are heroines. Let us think of women like Throwback Collection, who was the first woman to join the Black Panther Party as a rank-and-file member, and with her courage and ability paved the way for thousands of others to follow her path. While her name may not be known nor famous, history should record her proud contribution of resistance to the racist repression of the 1960s and 70s. Tariqa, like millions of other black women, came from traditions of women warriors all along the West African coast.
But also all these steps, also having black curly hairs.
Brother Reeves on here. Been getting a lot of text messages, phone calls, emails, and DMs regarding this whole Sesame Street fiasco where Bert and Ernie are supposedly a homosexual gay couple, and that is in fact not true whatsoever. The first episode of Sesame Street aired in November, while the gay pride movement was established in June, both in 1969. Both were established in the same year. They absolutely had nothing to do with one another. Sesame Street was erected and or created or founded to educate preschoolers on basic things such as math, reading, arithmetic, alphabet, etc. The gay pride movement was established by members of the gay community who had to fight against the police officers in Manhattan, New York in something called the Stonewall Riots. These two things were established in 1969. There was a third thing which was established called the Crips, which stood for Community Resistance in Progress. So while gay people were fighting for homosexuality, black people were fighting to be treated as human beings against white supremacy and against being killed and murdered. In this Bert and Ernie situation to further the homosexual agenda by injecting this into the minds of children, which is why they're making it mandatory for children to learn about homosexuality in schools, specifically in California right now with 10 books. Children are being told they could be any gender. It's called gender fluidity, population control.
Look at Africa in the bottom map. It has the lowest diabetes in the world. So how can diabetes be genetic in blacks if they didn't have it in Africa?
The purpose of cow's milk is to turn a 65-pound calf into a 400-pound cow.
Population control.
As rapidly as possible. Cow's milk is baby calf growth fluid. That's what the stuff is. Everything in that white liquid, the hormones, the lipids, the proteins, the sodium, the growth factors, the IGF, every one of those is meant to blow that calf up to a great big cow, or it wouldn't be there. And whether you pour it on your cereal as a liquid, whether you clot it into yogurt, whether you it into cheese, whether you freeze it into ice cream, it's baby calf growth fluid. And women eat it, and it stimulates their tissues, and it gives women breast lumps. It makes the uterus get big, and they get fibroids, and they bleed, and they get hysterectomies, and they need mammograms, and gives guys man boobs.
Nearly 200 pork samples tested by Consumer Reports. Many tested positive for salmonella, listeria, staph bacteria. The magazine says a whopping 69% contained Yersinia, which infects nearly 100,000 Americans every year. Children are especially vulnerable.
Fasting is a charity that you pay for your health. The whole sense of how the food chain has been poisoned relates directly to how we find ourselves, our perspective, how we understand and see things. Because in terms of the food has been polluted and the food has been poisoned. And so what happens when you eat these preservatives in your body? If the role of the preservative is to allow meat to last so that it won't be attacked by the bacteria and the digestive fluids to break it down, then what happens is you begin to accumulate a waste within your body. And the waste becomes toxic. And the cells and the things that surround this, that encompasses it, the cellular structure and those things that come to support indigestion, some of the cells become mutant. They become stronger than other cells. And they begin to devour the other cells. That's what cancer is. That's all cancer is.
Population control.
In 1901, John Dee established the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. The institute recruited Simon Flexner, a pathology professor at the University of Pennsylvania, to serve as its director. His brother, Abraham, was an educator who was contracted by the Carnegie Foundation to write a report on the state of the American medical education system. His study, the Flexner Report, along with the hundreds of millions of dollars that the Rockefeller and Carnegie Foundations were to shower on medical research in the coming years, resulted in a sweeping overhaul of the American medical system. Naturopathic and homeopathic medicine, medical care focused on unpatentable, unmarketable natural remedies and cures, was now dismissed as quackery. Only drug-based allopathic medicine requiring expensive medical procedures and lengthy hospital stays was to be taken seriously.
So this blob that you see here is a lip balm that I had made, and I decided to, because it's sticky, put some on my finger and see what happens in my nose. And this is what came out of my nose. It was on a heavy spray day. Here it is here. See it? Yes. We breathe this in. This is under a microscope. I'm pretty sure these are little fucking bugs or something. It's fucking so unreal. This is a nano bug that I took out of my skin. Here's the breathing tube. Little spike in it. Here's another one. This is a really good example of a nano bug. Here it is here in the pore. This is under a microscope. There's its eye. This is me scratching it out. They're super hard to get out, but there it is there. There it is there. Yeah.
Tiny specks of computer smart dust will form a vast invisible network that can help manage the infrastructure of even the largest city.
Population control.
Smart cities in the future will take this low power, inexpensive, small technology and basically distribute it everywhere.
These tiny computers record information about their surroundings, information they can send to other computers or to you. Smart dust on the tracks will monitor your commuter train so you know if it's running late. Potholes will be able to report themselves and warn your car, and you'll never have to wait for a radio traffic report again. They're monitoring the flow of traffic and giving you alerts about what route is the right way to go to keep the traffic moving. Bridges will get a coating of smart dust particles that can warn us when they detect stress fractures, helping avoid deadly collapses. But smart dust will also allow buildings and streets to recognize you. And
scope inside my nose. This is a nano bug right there, and this is a carbon nanofiber. It's moving because it's alive. It's AI. This is a
kill them all! Kill them all! Kill them all!
I want to introduce you to a place called Astana in Kazakhstan. Astana is described as the New World Order's great city, and I'm reading from this website which says, Astana is the capital city of Kazakhstan with an official estimated population of nearly 700,000 people as of March 1st, 2010. Astana is the first large capital being built in the 21st century. The word Astana originates from Persian, Astana from the verb istadan, which means to stand in respect, and literally means threshold, i.e. royal or sacred, when people stand in respect and awe, implying where the court is seated, as in a capital city or a shrine town. What this really means is that Astana is being built as a shrine to the New World Order.
Okay, everyone. It's time to take a look at more of the madness that is going on around the world. Project Bluebeam. Now, this is not just about holographic imaging, folks. This is about a fully orchestrated, long-term charade. leading to the ultimate New World Order agenda, a one-world government.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war?
The Pentagon just got busted for spending $500 million to some British filmmaking crew or production company to make fake Al-Qaeda Taliban videos. You can't believe shit about the Middle East. They faked $500 million worth of videos. Anybody that say, you know what, they faked $500 million worth, but anything that they're showing me now, it's real. It's so easily to honey dick the masses. That's the fucking problem. The people that are gullible and they just buy all this shit. That's the problem. But it's reality. The Pentagon just got busted spending $500 million on fake Taliban Al-Qaeda videos. What the fuck does that mean to you? You gonna ignore that shit?
Massive overflight over the whole area of the South Pole. What was it that Admiral Byrd found on the South Pole? Incredibly enough, in an official American Navy documentary film, we found footage of what Admiral Byrd found on the South Pole. He found giant freshwater, never freezing lakes with areas around them that were free of any snow. And in that film we show footage of the Navy planes landing in these lakes. But even more so, he found, to his amazement, that his planes were disappearing very quickly. A lot of them crashed into invisible barriers and disintegrated in mid-flight. This is an indication that the Germans had already perfected the force field shields.
Many ancient cultures shared similar beliefs in a sacred place in the north, often described as a harmonious paradise. The Norse would call it Agartha. For Hindus, it's referred to as Paradisia. The Greeks knew it as Hyperborea. The Celtics called it Avalon. Buddhists call it Shambhala, and in the Bible, it's referred to as the Garden of Eden. That's just a few of the names. In fact, this place has been dubbed the Land of 1,000 Names. At the center of this paradise is the Axis Mundi, also called the Cosmic Axis, World Axis, World Pillar, Center of the World, and World Tree. This is said to be the connection between heaven and earth. Here is the Norse depiction.
You can see in that dive shot that the inside camera
the horizon is completely flat. Then it goes to the outside, and you got a huge curve. But when you're looking at some of the amateur balloon footage, some of it's lens corrected and it's completely flat. And others, like the GoPro stuff, the horizon will fluctuate as the camera spins and tilts. The horizon will go convex and concave, a lens effect. It's obviously not the horizon shifting every 2 seconds as the camera jumps. And when it's still, you can see all the way up, totally flat. NASA is essentially Hollywood, and all the images that you think you've seen of a spinning ball Earth are faked. And all the amateur balloon and rocket footage that we've sent up there shows a flat horizon.
Even the sun goes down, heroes eventually die, shot with their hands in the sky. Your favorite revolutionaries give up and comply, and the internet will justify your reason to die. We watched a woman get drug out and beaten, filmed in the highway, and all y'all could say was black women too mouthy. I'm vexed, searching my timeline, seeing people find time to criticize and villainize, call that shit a suicide. But what if Sandra Bland was your child? I know the struggle, it get hard, but we ain't backing out. Nothing is impossible. The word alone says I'm possible, so I'm the racehorse that I'm riding for audacity or hope. To believe you can succeed when everybody and their mama say no. Oh, fuck y'all, I'm different. Descendant of the fittest, I've been reincarnated just so I can handle business. My name, say my name. Tennessee, my name. Say my name. Let my struggle be in vain, yeah. Oh, say my name. Say my name. We the warriors.
When you want to conquer a people, you give them a myth. You get them to believe the myth. And then you have, through repetition, have them form the habit of believing the myth.
We've been trained to think about Europeans as our gods. So we're at war with who? We're at war with God? Because many of us believe in the white image of Jesus, and if that's his son, we know that his father must also be white. So are you trying to tell me we're at war with that?
The thing about being conscious and truthful is you gotta be tough, you gotta be ready to get violent, because people are always gonna try to take advantage of you, because if you're winning, they're losing. And those guys cheat and you don't. So they gotta know not to play with you. They gotta know you can't really think that you're just gonna have an opinion without some muscle.
We've also had the mindset of resistance. Even in Los Angeles here, a lot of gangs got started because they were combating the white supremacist groups that were targeting black people in certain neighborhoods. So street gangs were created to really battle them at first.
And his friends convinced the Virginia legislature to adopt very restrictive legislation in 1924. It's called the Racial Integrity Act. With this legislation, it was decreed that there were only two possible categories. One is white, which means a person, you check that you're white if you have white ancestry, Caucasian ancestry, and absolutely nothing else. The other category is everybody else, and that's colored. So this was very hard on Virginia's indigenous community because, in a sense, it wipes away their identity on paper. Their ability to describe themselves as Indian was not possible in the state of Virginia until 1968, when the U.S. Supreme Court forced Virginia to repeal the law.
Some people were ashamed to even say they was Native American again, especially living in an African American community.
because then they told me they was looked upon as being a traitor or trying to be something that they were not. But then they knew their grandmother was an Indian.
I'm a Powhatan, I'm a Eastwood lad, Indian and original, all American. My skin color is tan, man. You can say it's brown and just look at my head, one side shaved down. Look at me now, my body marked up, red paint on my face, no clothes on my butt. What? Nah, deer skin cover up, my bow on my side. I let the arrow glide. I'm a hunter, a farmer, a fisherman. Everything that I need, I get from the land. I make my own clothes, my own weapons too. When you see the moccasins, then I'm stepping through. I'm a Powhatan, I'm a Powhatan, I'm a Powhatan, I'm a Powhatan. I'm a Powhatan, I'm a Eastwood lad, Indian and original, American.
They're paying black women not to have babies now. They got all kind of plans to stop our race.
Well, everyone,
so when we know all of
everyone's
this,
getting into birth
so now
control,
a man with my knowledge, what can you tell a man like me now? What's your suggestion? That's your question. Okay, you talking to me, not a dumb Negro or pork chop eater, don't know the truth. I'm free now. I woke up. Now, what are you going to tell me now? I done gave you my solution, some land of my own, doing something for myself like you, England, and America do. Now, I know you're not against the black man. I know you're not against me having my land, are you? I know you English and ruled and slaved forever for a long time. But do you still today don't want me to have my own country and build for myself and govern myself? Would you think that's bad if we thought like that? So what's your solution to my problem? 1974, then you all just, some white man just flew from New York to England in an hour, less than 2 hours. You all are so progressive. You're walking around on other planets. Now, today, I'm intelligent too now. What's your suggestion? What should be my movement? Integrate?
Yeah, equal rights in a mixed society.
In this society, where you still own the government, you still own the train station, the railroad plant, the lecture plant, these television cameras, you still make all the food, you control everything.
The fortunes of Carnegie, Morgan, and Rockefeller financed surgery, radiation, and synthetic drugs. They were to become the economic foundations of the new medical economy.
The takeover of the medical industry was accomplished by the takeover of the medical schools. Well, the people that we're talking about, Rockefeller and Carnegie in particular, came to the picture and said, we will put up money. They offered tremendous amounts of money to the schools that would agree to cooperate with them. The donors said to the schools, we're giving you all this money. Now, would it be too much to ask if we could put some of our people on your board of directors to see that our money is being spent wisely? Almost overnight, all of the major universities received large grants.
So they passed a law saying that Christianity did not relieve your heathenism for a black person. And they did not want, after that time, a few blacks had been going to church, but they were sitting in white churches, and they had to be monitored and watched, as I told you, because of the Diversity Act. So when the evangelical movement started moving through this country in the turn of the first of the 1800s, early 1800s, they said, we'll let blacks have their churches, but we can always also, but we must pick the ministers, and we must license the ministers. We must pick ministers that we can control.
I know we've talked about giving up 10% of your earnings. We talked about that last week and the week before, and we're going to keep talking about it till y'all get it right.
We never get tired of that subject because the Lord says you must store up treasures in heaven and not on earth.
Oh, that's right. That's why there's a hole in the ozone layer now.
We need to, get information out to our people without them being sensitive to their belief systems. In our culture, Tetragrammaton actually deals with the four gates and the four elements. And yet Tetragrammaton is presented to people who don't understand it as the ineffable word or four-letter word. YHWH, and then those who don't understand the science just say Yahweh, and then those who don't understand that say Jehovah. There is no Jew. We're Yahudi, which some people call Hebrew. It is no Hebrew, it's Ibri. That's those of us who crossed the river. It cannot be emphasized enough. And yet those same people will turn around and condemn cosmology, which is actually the foundation of all religions on the planet. And so what you find is people sitting around debating their beliefs that have nothing to do with the science of life.
Now you might ask yourself,
Why would the news concentrate on so much negativity if the world is actually getting better? And the reason why is because they understand the way your brain works. Your brain is designed to look for the negative. And the reason why is because your brain wants you to stay alive. So it focuses on the negative. So if the news puts out more and more negative, you're more likely to watch. Your brain is going to get addicted to watching that negativity, which in turn turns into more advertising dollars for the news companies that you're watching.
Our mission as a company is to create synthetic individuals, essentially robots that are indistinguishable from human. So we want to bring the show Westworld to life with less of the violence and the killing and the raping. So basically we want to create a nice version of Westworld where humans and robots can live together in harmony and symbiosis and basically explore what we can become together. Okay, so how did this all start? So I'm not going to talk today about what Sanctuary is or what we're doing or how we're doing it. What I thought I'd focus on is why we're doing what we're doing.
All right, what is the Trilateral Commission? It's an organization founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller to bring together business and political leaders from the United States, Europe, Japan, so they could work together for better economic and political cooperation between their nations.
But that's what they'd like us to believe. But you see, what they're really up to is a scheme to plant their own loyal members in positions of power in this country, to work to erase national boundaries and create an international community, and in time bring about a one-world government with David Rockefeller calling the shots.
You know, when I see a white person, a white man or a white woman, the first thing I'll start thinking, what do that white person want from me? Because I feel in the back of my mind that they don't mean me any good. They never have meant me any good. So why should I believe that they mean me any good now?
Black people cannot be racist. Let me repeat that. Black people cannot be racist. To be racist, you must be prejudiced and you must wield institutional power. And although anyone in this country can be prejudiced, anyone can believe something negative about someone based on their race, whether you're black or white, you cannot be racist if you don't wield institutional power. And black people don't wield institutional power in this country. Now, before you start Barack Obama all over me, let me explain that even though there are black people who hold some power, they don't hold institutional power. I'm an educator, so like white judges, white police officers, our systems, our institutions are still dominated by white people. And so that's a big difference. And the outcomes of prejudice are very different.
Video.
Why don't you take a picture?
It's a video.
Yes,
it's a video.
Go, go.
It's a video.
Oh
my God.
Hold the paper. One hung low.
This is for the weather girl tonight. Please don't wear your hair like that anymore. It just doesn't look good at all. Please don't. Change it back to something more normal, not something that's all looking.
Honey Boo Boo, stop following me, please.
Ugly nigga, go away.
Ugly what?
Ugly black guy, go away. I will get you fucked.
Archbishop, you knew it was a crime for an adult to engage in sex with a kid.
I'm not sure whether I knew it was a crime or not. I understand today it's a crime.
When did you first discern that it was a crime for an adult to engage in sex with a kid?
I don't remember.
When did you first discern that it was a crime for a priest to engage in sex with a kid who he had under his control?
I don't remember that either.
Do you have any doubt in your mind that you knew that in the 70s?
I don't remember if I did or didn't.
In which this weed has been modified has never been put through a validated, comprehensive research assessment to prove that it is safe. The technology is too new. Therefore, it's important that we have a battery of studies that are conducted on the wheat to convince people and myself, scientists, regulators, that the wheat can be eaten by people. What we found is that the molecules created in this wheat, intended to silence wheat genes, can match human genes. And through ingestion, these molecules can enter human beings and potentially silence our genes. We found over 770 pages of potential matches between the genes, these two genes in wheat, and the human genome. We found over a dozen matches that are extensive and identical and sufficient to cause silencing in experimental systems.
So I haven't had meat in about 36 days, mammal that is. So I've been on a seafood and veggie pretty much diet because I'm scared of everything. And so today I went to Berkeley Bowl and I bought this nice piece of black cod. And as you can see, I let it sit for about an hour and there is a parasite coming out of it. Alive, like moving. Do you see her moving? Fucking saying hi to me, like hello. I think that this might be the day where I no longer eat any kind of meat. This might have fucking killed everything for me. I was already done with the chicken and the pork and the beef and the lamb, but now I'm done with the fish.
And chicken sandwiches and shit, man. That's what they make that shit with. Y'all please share this shit, man. This shit is unhealthy.
Here's a test that you need to do. You do cranberry juice, 100%, 91% alcohol, and then you do a mouthful and you swig and gurgle for 3 minutes, and then you spit into a plastic container or a clear container. Then you get this, and then you pour it in. You see them wiggling around. This is inside all of us. You see that? Some more gallons from all the chemtrails and shit that they're putting in the air. All the crap that's in the food. And now they're not moving anymore because they're dead. But I'd encourage you to try this experiment. You know, gurgle for 3 minutes, spit it out, and then watch all the things squirm.
Cuz! Bro, I did it! This shit nasty! Oh my god! Oh! Look, bro! What the fuck? Yo!
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country.
Still a piece of garbage. His powers resulted from a type of meditation. He called the energy chi.
My positive from here and my negative from here. And we meet together, this can get like electricity.
He then took our newspaper outside and showed us how chi can also be used to set things on fire.
For a very long time, I put this person on a pedestal. I loved them. And the entire time, this person was casting spells and manipulating me and controlling my job situations, my relationships.
The actual secret is that Masonry is a sex cult. And that's why they wear their apron over their Holy of Holies. Just like there's a veil in the Temple of Solomon that covers the holy place where the Ark of the Covenant is. Well, this is the Holy of Holies of the Mason. That's why Masonic monuments are obelisks. Like Washington's monument, the largest obelisk in the world. He was a Freemason. It's a giant phallic symbol.
It's all there for everyone to see.
That is what the Masons mean by resurrection.
Wow.
If you go to a Masonic funeral, they talk about the sure and certain hope of the resurrection. That's not, when they say that word, they don't mean what all the nice, Christian people sitting in their chairs think they mean. They're talking about the fact that the phallus dies and then rises again.
marketing industry is very much like the media industry. Just 4 mega corporations control the vast majority of all advertising agencies. The Omnicom Group of New York, WPP of London, Publicis of Paris, and Interpublic of New York are the key corporations in the West. Dentsu of Tokyo is the next largest group and 5th globally. The New York Times states that these companies are so powerful that they can indirectly set network television schedules and starve magazines to death or help them to flourish by deciding how and when to spend advertising dollars. Each company owns dozens, if not hundreds, of smaller agencies. Omnicom has bought over 150 firms alone. CEO John Wren, of Irish descent, currently heads Omnicom Group. Omnicom was founded by Alan Rosenstein, Keith Reinhardt, and John Bernbach, all 3 Jewish. Long-standing CEO of Publicis from 1987 to 2017 has been Maurice Levy, who cited his rabbi grandfather as his greatest inspiration.
Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't.
When you exposed yourself to his 10-year-old sister, did you have an erection?
No. I mean, no. Partial, maybe.
Partial erection?
Maybe, yes.
How did you talk to her? What kinds of things did you say?
What is it
What?
that
How did you talk to her? What kinds of things did you say?
The exposure happened a couple of times.
A couple of times. You told me once.
No, I said on the list it happened several times. I said on the disclosure.
Several times. Oh, you have to understand I was being shot in the face with a shotgun, so several times.
It happened.
With a 10-year-old. Okay.
Well, no, she was 11 and then like 12 and 13.
You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls.
Some people say that mass immigration into the United States can help reduce world poverty. Is that true? Well, no, it's not. And let me show you why. This gumball represents the 1 million legal immigrants that the United States has taken every year on average since 1990. Now, who in the world deserves our humanitarian compassion? The World Bank has one measure of the desperately poor of the world. They make less than $2 a day. And how many people make less than $2 a day in the world? Well, let's start with Africa. In Africa alone, there are 650 million people who make less than $2 a day. 650 million. And in India, another 890 million people, desperately poor. China adds another 480 million people, making less than $2 a day. And unfortunately, the rest of Asia has a heartbreaking 810 million people who the World Bank says make less than $2 a day. And finally, there's 105 million of Latin America's population that are desperately poor. All told, the World Bank says there are 3 billion people in the world. 3 billion people who are desperately poor, making less than $2 a day. That's 3,000 gumballs. And every year, we take 1 million and suggest that we've somehow made a humanitarian difference. Of course, we don't pull our immigrants from these desperately poor populations, do we? These people are too poor, too sick, too disconnected to make it here as immigrants. We tend to pull our immigrants out of the better off poor of the world. And Mexico tends to define the type of immigrant that we bring here because the plurality of people come from Mexico. And Mexico is poor. How many people in the world live in countries that have average incomes lower than that of Mexico? And the World Bank tells us that that number is these 3 billion plus another 2.6 billion people. 5.6 billion people in the world who live in countries with average incomes below that of Mexico. That's 5,600 gumballs. And so what is it that the elites are telling us? They're telling us that when we take this 1 million immigrants, that we somehow or another are tackling world poverty. And we have to do it regardless of the effect on our unemployed, the working poor, the most vulnerable members of our society, regardless of the effect on our natural resources. Even if we went by the most radical proposals in Washington, which are to actually double our immigration to 2 million a year, which would totally overwhelm our physical, natural, and social infrastructures, we couldn't make a noticeable difference.
Days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem."
Mr. Carmichael, if you had the chance to stand up in front of the white community and say anything you desired, say to him, "Understand me, white man," what would you say?
I would say, "Understand yourself, white man, that the white man's burden should not have been preached in Africa, but it should have been preached among you. That you need now to civilize yourself. You have moved to destroy and disrupt. You have taken people away. You have broken down their systems. And you have called all that civilization. And we who have suffered at this are now saying to you, you are the killers of the dreams. You are the savages. Yes, it is you who have always been uncivilized. Civilize yourself."
Marion, this all stems from one Chicago police officer, Ronald Watts, and the officers who served with him in a tactical unit on Chicago's South Side. As of today, the cases of dozens of people arrested by that unit have been thrown out. Many of them did multiple stints in jail, and the case isn't over yet. It was an extraordinary moment as the state's attorney personally shook the hand of each man who had his case thrown out.
This system owes an apology to the men who stand behind us.
Now, what in the haberdasheries and hemoglobin is going on here? We got skate cops on rollerblades. What y'all really gonna do? When you got to really take down the suspect, you got to chase him down. What you gonna do? When he hit them steps, y'all was just powerless. Powerless right there at the steps. What you really gonna do when people hop a fence? This is ridiculous. Now, bicycle cops barely get enough respect out here on the streets, man. They making ends meet on the respect tip. Now, you rollerblades? That's what we doing out here? What if you get tripped up? What about the grass? What y'all gonna do in the grass? The mud? Gravel? Oh, y'all just silly.
Scientists to implant woolly mammoth genes into an Asian elephant embryo as early as 2020. The new cloning facility, which will have its plans detailed at an investment forum in September, costs nearly $6 million.
Found that for $5 that a white could put his name on the dolls rolls and be called himself an Indian and be entitled to all these benefits, and all their children could be entitled to all these benefits forever. And so that became known as what's called a $5 Indian. And so if you go around now and check most of the Indians, the so-called Indians in America, about 90% of them are not even Indians. Those are just whites now who are passing as Indians. But they're getting all the benefits. and they're not paying any taxes, getting free college education. They put up a little reservation on the land that they don't live on. They have another home off and get all kind of benefits.
Everybody's concerned about their DNA, man. Everybody want to know where they from, their ancestry. I think it's fucked up to live in America when they stole you from your homeland, then sell your ancestry back to you. Like, you know, for $100, I'll show you where we stole you from.
Now, we know that Aborigines were the first Australians, but could they have been the first Americans as well? Cosmos magazine says the oldest human remains found in South America could rewrite the history books. For more, it's over to Editor-in-Chief Wilson De Silva. Good morning to you.
Hello, Matt.
Tell us what exactly has been found.
Well, it's a startling discovery of hundreds of skeletons in South America and Central America that have all of the cranial characteristics not of the Native Americans, who are very Asian looking, but actually Australian Aborigines. In fact, the oldest one is 11,000 years old.
Now, this country has got a psychological history. There was a master race, there was a slave race. And though there isn't any political slavery anymore, those same old attitudes have hung around.
He was everybody's favorite dad. And now they just trying to.
So you got that nigga wake up call.
You know, so he got his wake up call. That's all. He got his black wake up call.
Yes, sir.
You know, now they're trying to destroy him. That's how white people do. That's what they do when you get out of line. They don't. You know, it's like it's military. All those are military moves. You know, the arena, the fall of the Roman Empire, the arena. That's why everything that has an arena to it, it's we're the descendants of Rome. You know?
Yes, sir.
Everything is an arena. Football, baseball, name it. What is it? It's an arena.
Family, Brother Rees Islam, I'm going to go ahead and clear the air on this regarding Sister Amber Rose saying that she wishes death upon Bill Cosby. Number one, Sister Amber Rose, if you wish death upon Bill Cosby, or if you say rapist, fine, then you must wish death upon every single one of them who have come out with this. You must wish death upon Donald Trump. You must wish death upon Harvey Weinstein. You must wish death upon the over 3,000 Catholic priests who have been having sex with children. You must wish death upon all of them. You cannot simply point out Bill Cosby. Two, on the other hand, seeing how you are the founder of the Amber Rose Slut Walk, where you encourage women to be virtually butt naked, and it encourages the lower desires of deranged, sick men out here to want to go and touch these women, you also have to take responsibility for the part that you play in the future of said rape ever occurring again in the lives of certain women. Activists, we must take responsibility for the things we say. Remember, Carolyn Bryant Dunham lied about Emmett Till and held on to the lie for over 50 years, so people do lie. Having followers doesn't mean you have facts.
The Cosby situation, in which the media clearly has an angle, is one of the many cases that exposes the mainstream media's tricks and schemes. One of the main ways some media outlets lie to us these days is not necessarily by lying per se, but by omission of information. And this is what they do on a regular basis. They're telling you things that are true, but it's how they tell it to you and what they leave out that tells the real story. They've been lying about this for a long time. All the pundits were rambling about Bill Cosby, and without any proof or evidence or thinking anything was weird, people just believed it.
But fortunately, we had a good saying that we've held firm to this day, as the dean was reminding me before the talk, which is what happens at Georgetown Prep stays at Georgetown Prep. That's been a good thing for all of us, I think.
Nobody respects us. They're laughing at us.
They are laughing at us.
They're laughing at us. They're laughing at us. We don't want other leaders and other countries laughing at us anymore, and they won't be. They won't be.
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Quiero decirles, a Estados Unidos no le interesa la democracia.
Si así fuera, no habrían financiado golpes de Estado y apoyado a dictadores. No amenazaría con intervenciones militares a gobiernos democráticamente electos, como lo hace contra Venezuela. No le interesan los derechos humanos ni la justicia. Si así fuera, firmarían los convenios internacionales de protección de los derechos humanos o las amenazas a los mecanismos de investigación de la Corte Penal Internacional. No promovería el uso de la tortura. No abandonarían el Consejo de Derechos Humanos y no separarían a niños migrantes de sus familias ni los pondrían en jaulas.
Groping a woman, which is, what is that, at 18? I mean, how many guys, you know, think that's no big deal? Even back then, it was, it's not a big deal. It doesn't just take away from his character and his job to do what he needs to do as a Supreme Court nominee. If he was pro-abortion, the liberals wouldn't be fighting this hard. We're all sick and tired of hearing about the Kavanaugh thing because it's not supported by any facts or evidence whatsoever.
As long as I'm in my right mind, I'm committed to the African liberation struggle. However, I do not view it as a struggle, as said, it's the African liberation movement. Because many times when brothers and sisters get to talking about we involved in the struggle, they make it hard for themselves and anybody else who may be interested in it. It is a happy thing that we do, those who are participating in it. We chose that this is the road we would go rather than be manipulated and controlled by something or someone else. And that's a happy choice. That's a choice that a lot of people don't even know they have. So now the fact that you made that choice, you must be a happy warrior. It must be a joyful task. You fight better when you're happy. Even when it comes to the point where you have to take an enemy's head off, do it with a smile.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
Well, why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat.
Everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. Everybody knew the Earth was flat. Imagine what you know tomorrow.
They know about us what we don't know about ourselves. And when you don't know who you are, you become a weapon against yourself. That's why it's so important to know, to be able to authentically identify with who you are, because when you don't know who you are, you become a weapon against yourself, because there are other powers and other entities that know exactly who you are and what you are capable of. And so they'll use your energy source. You are walking, talking, breathing pure fucking magic. You are. So many of us think that we are the body, and that's the problem. You are the entity that lives inside of the vessel. You govern the avatar. You are not the avatar, just like I am not this car. But so many of us go about our lives living as if we think we are the car. So other people drive us, and many of them drive us fucking crazy.
I love to get in this microwave dressing.
Now this is the whole reason marijuana is illegal. Yep. This is hemp seed oil with a hemp wick. And it is an illuminant. Hemp was an original illuminant before they used whale oil, before they were using petroleum. Hemp seed oil was one of the first illuminants used by humanity to light the first lamps. And this is the whole reason it's illegal, because you can pour this hemp oil right into any diesel engine, turn the key, and drive it. Hemp oil produces 3 times more seed oil than any other plant on the planet. It also produces 3 times more fiber. And here's some hemp twine. This is produced in China. Hemp twine from China. So the main reason marijuana is illegal is because of hemp oil and hemp fiber. And marijuana laws were created to stop the oil companies from competing with hemp fiber, with the introduction of new machinery that made hemp fuel and fiber much less expensive.
Привет, Костя и Макс. Как вы попросили, снимаю это видео еще раз. И на этот раз не будем говорить лишних слов, сразу переходим к музыке.
But the symbol of Apple computers, are you aware of what that's all about? It says here, the logo for Apple computers is an apple with a bite out of it. To many occult insiders, this signifies the eating of the forbidden fruit, symbolically the apple, by Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden was a good thing. Occultists and New Agers teach that taking a bite out of the apple gave the first 2 humans knowledge.
You are carrying around the visual representation of that symbol all day long. You've got the apple with a bite out of it. That represents a deal that was struck when the offer was made. Hey, listen, I will make you like gods. You will have the power of God.
The price tag on the first personal computer from Apple was $666.
Once he injects it, you can't keep the muscle flat.
In there. Whew. That wasn't so bad. It was a slight pinch. Put your finger in there. We're done. People just got a secret investor. He requested I be microchipped. And he requested I give you guys a quick message. Paradism. For those of you who don't know, be aware. We all need to fight the good fight to free mankind and give job to robotics. A world without money, a world without government.
My dick in my pants. All these niggas like a willy nigga. In a hole with the billy niggas. Sing that bitch.
If a black person has a tendency to show stupidity or silliness, that black person, the white supremacists immediately will seize up on them and say this person doesn't show any signs of being serious about anything. So these are the black people that we want to become more and more prominent. And we will feed into their silliness. Anything stupid that they come up with, or we come up with for them, we will glorify it. As long as it's stupid and silly. Anything that's serious and constructive, we don't want them to be logical. We don't want them to tap into that. No, we don't want those type of non-white people to get out from under our surveillance. You watch them very closely. It's like that dangerous black person on the plantation who's always going around trying to read something or trying to figure things out, asking questions, trying to figure out how the plantation is run. That is a dangerous Negro on this plantation. Sell him down the river or give him a good whipping and stop him from being curious about serious things. Keep him in the silly mode. That is the category that black people are always supposed to.
Right after CNN, I was doing Kiss FM. I was doing the morning show. Bill Cosby had called in to promote a gig I think he was having in Connecticut or Pennsylvania, and I was like, Bill don't like me, and I don't particularly care for him, so I'm not gonna, I'll let you guys do the interviews for pre-tape. And so a girl named Jackie Reed and a cat named Steve Wilson, who were my co-hosts, started interviewing me, but he was such a dick. For 5 minutes he's being such a dick. I was like, Mr. Cosby, what is it you like for us to know? He said, who is this? He said, I said, this is D.L. Hughley. You say nigger, and I don't like your comedy. And he went in, and I was like, with all due respect, Mr. Cosby, I say nigger, but no co-ed has ever woke up drug with her drawers on backwards. And we go back and forth and back and forth. I said, I respect, you could be my son. I said, but I'm not.
Our people with the big mouths that look like they can wake up the people. A little money here, a little money there. Yes, you want to be a leader? Come. Here, a little money there. And all of a sudden, their mouths just shrink. Oh, yes. You can hardly see a word coming out of them that has meaning, because now they've been bought and paid for. A nation of whores. Put that down. Whores that can be bought and paid for.
We are grateful to the Washington Post, the New York Times, Time Magazine, and other publications whose directors have attended our meetings and restricted their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subject to the bright lights of publicity. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march toward a world government.
That these men aim to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. In short, they seek total and quiet control.
I'm here to talk to you about these FEMA camps. I'm very disturbed about them. Why would we be building these things all over the country? For what purpose?
Well, we wouldn't, because they don't exist. It's just a figment of some people who can have concerns about maybe Martians or other creatures coming to infiltrate our society, thinking that there are such camps. But
so
there are no such camps.
There are no such. So why was it put into that bill? It's in a bill. So it's put into the bill. It doesn't exist. There are no FEMA camps anywhere in America.
No, there aren't.
What was the place I saw in Texas?
I don't know what.
It was called a residence. It had two 20-foot high fences around it. When I knocked on the door, it was locked. When the people came to the door, no comment was the answer I got on any question. And what disturbed me the most about this place was in the back, it was like a daycare. There's slides and swings for children.
Has started building since the 1940s large underground bases with every commodity you can think of. These bases are basically large cities underground, connected by high-speed magneto-leviton trains that have speeds up to Mach 2. According to Phil Schneider, the black budget is a secret budget that garners 25% of the gross national product of the United States. The black budget currently consumes trillions of dollars per year. Presently, there are over 129 deep underground military bases, or DUMBs, in the United States. These underground bases were built using nuclear-powered laser drills that can drill 7 miles per day. Also, dedicated nuclear explosions were held to create large underground spaces. A lot of contractors work in these places, but never
stop buying the product. And you say, but how can I stop buying the product? And the answer is, well, empower yourself, because you're the one that controls all this. Any drug that affects you got to understand this. If I take a drug and it affects me, the reason why it affects me is because I have a natural equivalent of that drug in my own biology. You don't take a drug and it affects you and you have a receptor for that drug, like you are having this protein receptor for a drug you may never take. That would be silly. So if you have a receptor for a drug, then by definition, that receptor was already there because there's a natural drug. So, in smoking pot, everyone, oh, no, there's a drug called tetrahydrocannabinol. And guess what? You have receptors for it because you make your own. So the idea is this. well, if you want to have the effect of the drug, do you have to take an outside drug? And I say, no, you have to change your consciousness because you already manufacture every equivalent of a drug right now. And the idea is, if you're not manufacturing it, then that means your consciousness is not supporting.
He said something that really hit home about this phenomena of chemtrails.
There are 172 bills before the U.S. Senate right now calling for more weather modification programs. And while scientists say it's one way to reduce greenhouse gases, opponents say the consequences could be devastating.
All of these things change the growing cycles.
Peterson says altering the amount of sunlight that hits the earth will lead to damaged crops.
August 15, 1952, near the small town of Lynmouth, England, a massive rainstorm strikes. The river swells. Scores die.
It's estimated that 250 times as much rain fell in a period of 24 hours as normally fell in the entire month.
Was this just a freak act of nature? The prevailing theory is that it may have been a British military experiment gone bad, as they had been known to be conducting cloud seeding tests around that same time.
Weather modification is a growing trend both here in Northern California and around the world. So does it work? And why do some people say it could do more harm than good?
Here in downtown San Francisco, at PG&E headquarters, up on the 16th floor, the weather office, where the utility's top weatherman, Byron Marler, studies charts and satellite pictures. Marler's job is to change weather, although he won't say it that way.
We're really not changing the overall picture of the weather in the Sierra Nevada, with the exception of causing a little more snowfall over some of the watersheds. 5 to 10% additional water on an annual basis.
PG&E uses what are basically big propane gas flares in the mountains. But others use different methods, including airplanes to scatter tiny particles of silver iodide to seed clouds.
Most of the watersheds of the Sierra Nevada are cloud seeded by someone.
Water districts, corporate farms, even private individuals all modify the weather with little oversight and no government restriction.
I'm going to fill this up to nearly overflowing. And what might be surprising to some of you is that as the ice melts, the volume does not increase of the ice-water combination. And so none of the water will spill out. And that makes sense if you realize that as the water melts, its density increases because it's turning back into liquid water. So we'll just let it sit there for a while, and we can watch it on the clock. Okay, so here the ice is gone and we've got no spillage whatsoever.
Vinegar eels, Turbotrix aceti, found in mother of vinegar. Turbotrix aceti are free-living nematodes that feed on microbial culture called mother of vinegar. These organisms not only consume dead flesh, they also consume your cells. Reasons to avoid apple cider vinegar. It contains acetic acid. It has a very low pH of 2 to 3. It damages the thyroid and dehydrates muscle tissues and organs. It's known to cause alkalosis in the human body because of its incomplete structure. Also, vinegar is acetaldehyde, which is known as a neurotoxin. Apple cider vinegar is a neurotoxin that destroys arteries and takes oxygen from the cells. It's a waste product of fermentation. Yeah!
Black and brown bodies are being over-policed, and it's all because of these issues of false perception. It looked like a demon, a real suspicious guy. He was on drugs or something. That's how Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown were described before they were murdered. And those faces you just saw were guilty of nothing more than a misdemeanor. Meanwhile, the murderers, the people that America should actually be afraid of, he was bullied. He was just misunderstood. And this guy is mentally ill. Give me a break. In the US, Black and Hispanic people only make up 32% of the entire population, but they're over half of all people incarcerated. And that is because in America, we are more willing to believe that a black or brown person is a criminal.
get close
How far
to
are you
me.
anyway? Where you're
I'm
from?
glad. Where am I from?
Middle East.
Yeah, what's wrong with Middle Easterns?
What do you think? Some of you are terrorists.
I was born in the U.S.
Where?
In Portland, Oregon.
Oh, I doubt it.
On your marks, get set, white guys, go!
I have high hopes for this. I had a Cliff Bar before we started.
Everybody else!
Phew, I thought they were coming after us.
Why is there an attack on black activists versus any reports dealing with the alt-right and the white nationalists? Can you answer that question quickly?
I'm not aware.
Planning on investigating that?
When was that report completed?
In August of 2017.
I'm not aware of. I have not studied that report.
What incentive do you believe that the FBI has to make a label like black identity extremist?
A person cannot be targeted for investigation based solely on First Amendment activity. So by creating this black identity extremism movement, they can use that as the justification to then target any activist or any black person who is protesting police violence. This is a persistent problem. This is something that's happening now and has pretty much happened all along.
What's going on? Fucking battery dead. Oh, hold on. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Shit. Yo, what the fuck? Oh shit, I work today?
State Farm is there.
Forbidden knowledge.
Assalamu alaikum family, Brother Reez Islam here, and I'm going to do a quick video dealing with Israel, Palestine, and what's going on right now. And please do not be surprised, because this is America. Not a country, but a corporation. Point number one, everyone needs to understand something very quickly, which is Israel is America. As the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said, trust me, it's not the Israel that you're reading in the Bible entirely. It's not the Israel that you've been educated on. Israel is America, because that name, according to how we are taught, stands for those who are at war with God. Since 1948, America has given Israel $4 to $6 billion every year, and that came out of your taxes. Who you call Israelis are descendants of Khazar, Ashkenazi, so-called Jews. These are not the original Jews at all. That would be us. Due to the Balfour Declaration and many other things, they believe that that land belongs to them and that anyone there should be murdered and killed. Wondering why America doesn't do anything? Research the Samson option.
What do you want to see happen? What would make you happy and bring peace to you and your family?
يعني بتتوقع هي بتقدر تحرر فلسطين؟ يعني بتوقعش انه في قضية الفلسطينيين بحكيش انه قضية فلسطينية ولا قضية عربية. قضية فلسطين قضية إنسانية. يعني الاشي اللي بيسعدني اشوف كل يعني الإنسانيين بالدنيا يعني بتضامنوا معنا عشان نقدر نحرر أرضنا.
Well, the Intel company is mostly known for their cutting-edge computer chips, processors, and servers, but Intel's CEOs are hoping to crack another crucial frontier and bring the world into the new era of 5G technology. Well, it turns out that the team behind this revolutionary upgrade is based in Intel's R&D department right here in Israel. This would be a seriously game-changing upgrade, one that has eluded tech companies for years, by the way. Compared with the current 4G standard, a 5G network would see 30 to 50 times faster download speeds, Translation, instead of hours or even minutes, you could download an entire season of your favorite TV show in 4K resolution in mere seconds, and that kind of speed boost would open up a whole new era of possibilities for our digital world. At a time when just about everything is linked to the cloud, a 5G network could rewrite the rules for how scientists develop our phones, our computers, hey, maybe even our cars. The minds at Intel are even thinking one step ahead. Imagine a cloud-based refrigerator that can tell you when you're running low.
Secret world government was actually created in 1952 when an alliance of all the secret powers, the powers behind the thrones, occurred because of the knowledge of this extraterrestrial presence, had to be dealt with. And they had to create a one world government, in other words, unite mankind against a possible extraterrestrial threat from out there, if it really exists. The other side of the coin is maybe they created this extraterrestrial threat from out there, and they have the technology that we've created here on Earth ourselves and are making us think that it exists. But in any case, all these secret powers made an alliance in 1952. It's called the Bilderberg Group, and they are really running the world. The
Bilderberg Group? Okay.
Yes, through what they call the Policy Committee. And
where is their HQ?
That's in Geneva, Switzerland.
The Queen herself has been accused of being involved in abducting children. William Coombs, who's a resident of the downtown east side, who's been on my radio show on Co-op Radio a number of times, he described how in October 1964, he remembered it was the fall, and sure enough, I checked, and the Queen and Prince Philip were in Canada between October 5th and 13th of 1964. He said the Queen and Prince Philip showed up at the Kamloops Catholic Residential School where he was a student. And he said they took all the children down to the riverside for a picnic, and 10 of the children left with the Queen and Prince Philip and never came back, 7 boys and 3 girls. He said it was really odd because all the kids were from that area, and they were never seen again their entire life.
In the very, very beginning, if you want to go all the way back, people would bring their gold or silver to the banks for safekeeping. And they say, give us a paper receipt, and we don't want to guard our silver and our gold because, you know, people could come in the middle of the night and they could kill us or tie us up and threaten us, and they'll get our gold and silver, so we can't really guard it. We'll take it to the bank and have them guard it, and we just want a paper receipt so that we can take the receipt back and get our gold anytime we want. And so in the beginning, you know, money was receipt money. They could then, instead of changing or exchanging the gold coins, they could exchange the receipts, and people would accept the receipts just as well as the gold, knowing they could get the gold. And so these paper receipts being circulated were, in essence, the very first examples of paper money. Well, the banks learned early on that game that here they were sitting on this pile of gold and all these paper receipts out there,
where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything.
you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one world government controlled by them.
The implications of a weapon with no visible trace, a weapon that could knock out tanks, ships, and planes as fast as the speed of light. The same technology with modifications could disorient and even tranquilize military personnel, rendering them virtually helpless in the battle zone. These are the new weapons of war we will examine in this series. For the past 40 years, the world has been riveted by the threat of nuclear war. And and more recently by the prospect of space defenses using lasers and other modern technologies. But while both sides at the Geneva summit will be focusing on these matters, progress is being made in even newer weapons that could render any arms agreement relatively useless. Lightning is the most dramatic form of energy to be found in nature. Scientists have succeeded in creating limited types of artificial lightning, and some think that these could be the forerunners of a new type of directed energy weapon.
Some of you may be familiar with the old experiment about the hammer and the feather. Well, in this case, our feather will be played here by this four of spades. And you may expect everything up here in microgravity to float, because most everything does float. However, sometimes something a little different happens. Sometimes you just might find a little pocket of gravity.
Oh, you want to be an astronaut? Well, that's great. You can be an astronaut. All you have to do is study flying or science, and maybe someday you could be the first astronaut to walk on the moon.
No! There already was an astronaut who first walked on the moon.
Well, no, not really. That wasn't real. See, there was this thing called the Cold War, and in order to beat the Russians, we kind of faked that. That never happened. See how there's no windows on the side? And see underneath where there's like a pod thing? What's that, right? Take a look at this wreckage. See how there's no plane parts on the ground there? What does that look like?
A methyl.
1930s, new technologies had arrived, promising to make hemp a cheap and eco-friendly alternative to the toxic methods used to make paper and synthetic fibers. Hemp looked ready to become the go-to source for the manufacture of building materials, textiles, paper, and plastics. Hemp played a vital role in the U.S. economy until a vicious propaganda campaign was launched in the 1930s by newspaper tycoon William Randolph Hearst. You see, Hearst didn't just own 22 daily newspapers and 15 weekly papers from coast to coast. He owned the lands that grew the trees which fed his paper mills. His entire empire was threatened by hemp. And so it began. A sinister plot was seemingly hatched to slander, denounce, and literally crucify hemp by associating it with the term used in Mexico for the plant marijuana. Hearst published made-up horror stories about marijuana for years.
If you want to get a lot of people very angry at you, and you're in the health profession, it's fairly simple. Begin to cure incurable diseases.
It would ruin the economy. Billions of dollars.
Cancer is one of the richest multi-billion-dollar industries in the world, and every cancer patient is a commodity.
The huge pharmaceutical companies have everybody in their pocket, from the president on down to the senator's representative, everybody.
Oxygen-deprived acidic body will foster mucus, which will cause diseases. Essentially, no diseases can live in an alkaline body. Now, this information is not new, Dr. Warburg said basically the same thing in the 1920s, but Sebi took it a step further and claimed that diseases are not caused by a virus, germs, or bacteria. He claims that all diseases are caused by your diet. I guess this would explain why koala bears are getting chlamydia, gorillas in zoos are getting diabetes, dogs are getting gonorrhea, virgins are being diagnosed with genital herpes, and thousands of people are being cured from STDs, lupus, sickle cell, diabetes, cancer, and many other diseases after they change their diet. This is dangerous information.
Fuck that, I'm not getting no flu shots because it's flu season. Nigga, I'm gonna take some motherfucking lemons, some honey, some oranges.
A lot of Europeans have damaged heart chakras. Non-developed heart chakras. Some of this is based on culture. A lot of this is also based on genetics. As a result, they produce a culture that is not based and is rooted based on the heart chakra. So the love is like, I like my car. Because my car makes me feel good. It makes me feel it's a status of my success. When that car starts to rusty out, starts to rot, fall apart, or it can just be a style that is no longer desirable, then it might make you feel something else. It might make you feel depressed. Love is based on how you feel about a person, regardless
of how they make you feel.
Of how they make you feel. Okay. The false love is you're taking into account only how that person makes you feel. Right. You see the difference?
All right.
White folks, which is a great example, because we live in Western society, so we don't need to fuck around.
Right, right.
See what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm making this tape for love for my people. White folks who run European society, and European society in which we have found ourselves being caught up in, tells you that you love only based on how a person makes you feel. And the love we're talking about just is. That's true love.
Beyond feelings.
Beyond feelings and even beyond looks. When you truly get into this particular love, you'll even fall in love with a person's flaws.
We then showed them pictures of a black man and a white man. What were some comments about the black man?
He looks mean. FBI most wanted. He looks weird. He looks like he's a basketball player.
So, tell me about this guy. Does he seem like a nice person?
I think he's nice. I think he's nice, except he might be mad about something.
He was probably picking up on something. This is Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh. But when we ask which man is a criminal, most kids pointed to the black man. And when we asked which was a teacher, they said,
That one! The guy in the green shirt.
Swastikas, slurs targeting the black community, hateful, violent messages inside a Sacramento City College bathroom.
Between the ages of 6 and 15, and raping them all. But they also are raping the men. Same things are happening on the plantation. To demasculinize the black man.
Control the slave population is to rape a father in front of his sons, or to take the biggest, baddest black man on the plantation and do something horrible to him, to completely humiliate and emasculate him, so that people won't respect him anymore. And that still happens to this day.
In the Caribbean, they had seasoning plantations, which were plantations used to break the slaves. And one plantation, or one place that had a lot of seasoning plantations, was Jamaica. And people have to wonder, what were they doing on these seasoning plantations that was worse than what was happening on the regular plantations? Well, one thing that they were doing on these plantations, especially in Jamaica, they were doing a process called buck breaking.
Push. Keep pushing. Don't give up. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. Keep pushing.